MBFriends presents an introduction to the rational temperament, Part 3, Rational's Childhood, Adulthood and Leadership.
The Myers-Briggs temperament hypothesis suggests that, in many cases, children are fundamentally different from their parents and need to develop in entirely different directions, so that their mature personalities can take their rightful form.
Rational children, especially reserved ones, can seem distant and detached, as if unable or at least reluctant to express affection. Rationals start very young, some of the tender age of 3 and 4, in exercising their ingenuity, and it is on their cleverness and inventiveness that they base their self-esteem. To be sure, dignity is unusually important to anti-children, and they are often described as prideful or arrogant, an attitude which others can find offensive, and which can make them want to knock antis off their high horse. However, the issue is not pride but autonomy. Rational kids want to think, act, and feel for themselves, to be independent and self-sufficient, to figure things out for themselves, to go their own way.
NTs are fascinated by stories of science fiction, tales of magic and sorcery, and epics of heroism and achievement are their favorites. Rational children, just like idealist children, show an interest in hearing, reading, and talking stories and imaginative things, and in talking and listening to adults. The net effect of all of this exposure to make-believe is that the fantasy life and abstract vocabulary of rational and idealist children grow faster than of artisan and guardian children. Thus, parents of NT children would do well to read to them. They are apt to have expensive collections, rocks, animal artifacts, coins, stamps, butterflies, and the like. As they get a bit older, NT children want chemistry sets, electronic sets, and erector sets with which they can experiment with different structures and functions. And, of course, video game player and the computer reach out and grab rational children, and never let them go.
NTs are born to play strategic roles, but only a few of them have anyone that shows them how to act in a strategic manner. NTs only rarely have even one parent or teacher to be a role model, so they're mostly on their own in learning the role variants of field marshal, mastermind, inventor and architect. Guardian parents who model logistical roles are usually disappointed with their rational child's indifference. No matter how often they are reminded to clean up, NT children are erratic about the way they maintain their room and clothes. They may at one time keep order and at another let disorder reign. Probably the most frequent condition of their room is one of apparent chaos, but little rationals will be likely to know where each and every treasure is placed.
Rational children don't like to be governed or directed by others, told how to think, or act, or feel, and they will stubbornly oppose parents and older siblings who try to manipulate them. Moreover, particularly as a child, the NT wants to know the reason for doing something. If none is forthcoming, the child is at least hesitant, if not reluctant, to do it. Parents also do well to be patient and to provide their rational children with answers to their questions, but also to give them abundant opportunities to experiment, to find out, and to develop their own answers. By adolescence, trust in reason has become an absolute in the case of any thoroughgoing rational. Do it if, and only if, it makes sense, is the motto of the NT, acquired in youth, and never abandoned. Rational children will go along with a parent or teacher only if their demands makes sense, and they quickly lose respect for those who are not reasonable in their rules and reprimands.
Because even rational children yearn for achievement. Once they achieve something, that level of achievement immediately becomes standard for them. Yesterday's triumph is today's expectation, and the escalation of standards makes rational children vulnerable to fear of failure even when they are succeeding in the eyes of others. More than all the other types, NT kids are self-doubting, and for them to feel proud of themselves they must feel smart. They are particularly vulnerable here, with too much failure undermining their self-esteem. Scrupulously aware as they are of their own mistakes, NT children have their doubts about almost everything told them, and must look critically at any plan of action, particularly if based on custom or tradition. But this skepticism can also make them appear to be intellectual snobs, looking down on others who are perhaps less intelligent, or more gullible, and therefore judged to be inferior. Rational children need help in understanding that customs and traditions are important to other people, and to the smooth operation of society.
As adults, NTs tend to be relatively uninterested in acquiring material wealth beyond what is necessary for reasonable security and comfort, or in acquiring expensive things, cars, jewelry, clothes, just for the status or the pride of ownership. While NTs are periodically inspired to acquire wealth needed to own such expensive toys, this urge seldom lasts long enough to make that fortune. Their attention quickly turns once again to the theoretical, and the momentary interest in becoming wealthy dissipates only to return from time to time with the same result. Rationals tend over their lifetimes to collect a large repertoire of skilled actions, few of which they employ very extensively. Rationals love to feel capable, as if they can handle any problem that might arise, and so they surround themselves with the best tools available. And NTs seldom lose interest in owning books. They are some of their most valuable tools. A rational's home is likely to be well lined, even strewn, with books, with technical journals and dictionaries, with works of philosophy, history, biography, and the physical and sciences, but also with books for recreation, works of far-flung imagination.
As parents, rationals encourage an ever-increasing individuality in their children and do not impose unreasonable rules on them. It is of paramount importance to NT parents that each and every child in the family progressively increases his or her repertoire of capabilities, and is ever more self-reliant in conducting his or her life. NT parents are reluctant to interfere with their children and shape up their behavior, even if they see them foundering a bit. Rational parents stand ready to assist their children in reaching their potential, whatever it might be, but they will neither nag their children nor shield them from the consequences of putting off the task of individual development. Parenting, therefore, is usually a pleasure for a rational, who seems to watch the growth of children with joy but as something of a bystander. ENTJs and INTJs leave nothing to chance when it comes to watching over the maturation of their children. The parenting books have been read, the parenting magazine have been researched and considered. The whole thing is planned out well in advance with all important contingencies factored in. After all, many of these NTs are capable of running large organizations, so running a family is done with little difficulty and with little doubt as to the right course to take. On the other hand, ENTPs and INTPs are more puzzled by their children than they are certain of what to do with them. Unlike the other rationals, they have few if any set plans for raising their children, but simply wonder how it is with each of them. These NTs are the least giving to Pygmalion projects of all the types. The only thing they expect of their children is that their children expect things of themselves.
When it comes to leadership, rationals leader might be called visionary leaders because they have the ability to envision the goals of the organization, and then to conceive strategic plans to implement those goals efficiently. NTs pride themselves on their ingenuity and technical know-how, including managerial technology, and want to use their innate understanding of factors to reduce the complex to the simple, to get models onto paper, to rise to challenges of design for increased efficiency. The strategic intelligence of rationals, NTs, is shown in their ability to work with systems, that is, to figure out complex ways and means to accomplish well-defined goals. When called upon to come up with a strategy, NTs go happily to work. When called upon to devise something new, a prototype, they are all the more happy, since they are doing that which, in their view, is most worthwhile.
With their scientific, technological, and systemic perspectives, these visionary leaders keep their eyes open to new possibilities, and so value and support research and development efforts. What exists presently can be changed, and often is, since it is a mere remnant of the past. Even though visionary leaders can envision how an organization might look 10 years in the future, and blueprint that 10-year condition, they can have difficulty communicating their vision. Another weak spot for rational leader is that, because of their focus on long-range strategies and the big picture, they may, at times, be unaware of the feelings of others, whether good feelings or bad feelings. NTs also can hurt others, not with admonition, like the SJs, but with irony and ill-concealed contempt, giving their usual doubt and others' capabilities. Seldom do the rationals enjoy comments of a personal nature, rather, they respond to recognition of their strategic intelligence. Artisans are quite pleased by generous treatment, guardians by gratitude, idealists by being recognized as their unique selves. Certainly rationals are not indifferent to generosity, gratitude, and recognition. but they are much more pleased when asked by an admirer to comment on something the NT has produced, especially if the request is for an exposition of their rationale. NTs regard such deference as being given not so much to themselves personally as to their productions. After all, when they make something or do something, it is usually after long, and sometime obsessive analysis. So even if they are not especially brilliant, it is to be expected that their productions have been carefully devised, with pros and cons considered, and errors of inclusion and exclusion rooted out. Their problem is that their accomplishment is often so highly technical, designing a computer chip for instance, that most people are only vaguely aware of how difficult it was to make, and so have little or no reason to acknowledge or give credit to its maker. So the vast majority of rationals, who manage to achieve something great, are unsung heroes to the public, and therefore heroes only to their family or their colleagues, and perhaps in their own eyes.
Of course, rationals who have joined some sort of think tank, or some technical institute, or a computer company in Silicon Valley, places in which most employees are rationals of one kind or another, find their brand of intelligence is commonplace and taken for granted. Far more likely, however, is that there is only one or two entities on any given job site, and so they must have their doubts about others being able to imagine, let alone observe, their strategic capabilities. Those rationals who are lucky enough to be assigned strategic work must be content to pat themselves on the back now and then, and take pleasure in doing what they love to do. But if nothing else, please remember these two characteristics of rational leadership. First, rational leaders are consistently pragmatic, which means that they are carefully studious of the relationship between means and ends. Goals must be defined clearly so that operations likely to reach those goals can be identified, acquired, and applied. And second, rational leaders are consistently skeptical and error-activated. All ways and means must be scrutinized for their potential inefficiency. Traditional ways and means are not automatically applied, but must compete with new ones in the crucible of strategic analysis. This concludes our three-part series of the Introduction to the Rational Temperament. Please feel free to watch the corresponding videos to the 4 individual rational types. As always, please remember that learning about an individual's temperament is only a starting point, not ending point, to learning about that unique individual.
The source content of this video is Please Understand Me Too by David Gersey. For more information, please go to mbfriends.com.